Hi guys, it's Ian Thompson from IT Turning Point again. This is using calendars inside Microsoft Project, and this is step 3. In step 1 we created a calendar, and step 2 we looked at reflecting that calendar's working hours inside Microsoft Project's brain and getting it to use it in a project, and then adding it to project's memory so it would be there for every future project we had. And that's the base project I'm working on just now. But I did promise in step 3 that we would have a look at using the calendar that we had created, or any calendar inside Microsoft Project, when it comes to with regard to the resources. Now what I've done is I've changed view in this window, and you can see that I'm over in the resource sheet view. Now if I right click here, you can switch on something called a view bar, and it gives you all the views as well as little icons, and it's much easier to jump around. So you can see if I'm on the resource, I'm on the resource sheet view. What I've done is I've put in some resources here just to speed up the process so I don't take you too long in this video. But I've basically put resources in. I've even spelt my name incorrectly there, so I'll correct that. Ian Thompson, without a capital, hold on. Thompson, there we go. When I put in a resource, by default, Microsoft Project calls it a work resource. That's the type of resource it is. Now, understanding resources is a major part of Microsoft Project. You can have 3 types of resources in Project. You can have a work resource, a material resource, and a cost. We're only reflecting today on work resources because work resources are the only ones that have a calendar. They're the only ones that can reflect an amount of effort against a task for the task to be done. Now, when I put a resource in, you can see automatically it calls it a work resource, but it's automatically also put it on the base calendar that I told it to use in step 2 of calendars in Microsoft Project, which was my ITTP calendar. Now, I could be quite happy with that, or as you can see, I can go to each of the resources and I can choose another alternative calendar from the list of calendars inside Microsoft Project's brain and say, no, for this resource, use this calendar. For this resource, use that calendar. And I could effectively build a calendar for all the different resources if they all worked completely different working hours. The site is due to be open 9 until 5 Monday to Thursday and 9 until 4 on a Friday, but the resources may well be available outside those hours or even less than those hours. So I can reflect that by building calendars to reflect what each resource would give me in the form of effort towards my calendar. Or I could leave them on the base calendar if they only have minor changes to it. Like Ian Thompson myself, I'm expected to work the 9 till 5 and the 9 until 4, but I'm maybe taking an extra holiday that everybody else isn't, that the site isn't. The site's got a Christmas holiday, but I've booked myself a long weekend in November, so I'm going to have a Friday and a Monday off. Now, obviously, I'm not available then to give some effort, so I need to reflect that in my calendar. So I simply double-click my name in this resource sheet, and if I go in, I can either double-click my name, or just to show you another way so you're aware of it, if I click on it once and go to task, resources, I beg your pardon, I should be able to go to the information button there in resources, and it brings up exactly the same window. So I can either double-click my name, or I can click on that information box. Double-clicking just seems to be faster. I find it easier to use. This brings me straight into me as a resource, and if I click on change working time in here, which is the one we were familiar with before when we created our own calendar, you can see it's a resource calendar for Ian Thompson, but it's the base calendar ITTP. Now, if I change elements of that calendar here, I'm not changing the overall calendar. I'm only changing it for Ian Thompson, the resource. So, for example, I've got this extra holiday. So in exceptions, I would put in November holiday weekend. I really need to learn to spell this, weekend. There we go. And I could go in and I could choose the dates that I'm going to have a long weekend. So I'm going to have a Friday off on the 16th, and it will finish on the Monday, the 19th. So if I click underneath, you'll see it'll block those dates out. Doesn't matter about the weekend, I wasn't working anyway, but it's blocked out the Monday and the Friday so that I'm now no longer available. So if I'm now allocated against a task, and the task starts on the Thursday, then it will get longer. It will take longer to do because I won't be around on the Friday and the Monday to do it, and I won't be able to restart it until the Tuesday. But when I'm allocating resources inside a project plan, that's the sort of stuff I want to see when I'm building it, so that if I need to take Ian Thompson off that task, put someone on it who is available, and then program Ian to do something when he comes back for holiday, so I'm utilising the resources better. That's the sort of stuff I want to know while building the project. I can change Ian's default working week. For example, if I didn't work 9 until 5 and 9 until 4 on a Friday, I could go in here to the default, same as we did when we built the calendar in step 1, and I could change the working hours per day in here if Ian worked slightly different hours from the base calendar of the project. I don't in this occasion, so I'm going to leave it, but that is how I would do it. I simply click OK on that point, and I've now influenced my working hours, but it's maybe not very obvious. So I could, in the notes field, put a note in here for today's date, which is the 25th of October, and I could say Ian has a weekend booked in November, reflected in his calendar. And I could obviously put the dates in, which is the 16th of November to the 19th of November. Now, what's the benefit of doing that? Well, if I click on it now, and Ian's got a little post-it, and if I hover over that, it tells me he's got a weekend booked in November, and it's reflected in his calendar from the 16th to the 19th. So if I'm allocating resources, and there's these little notes that appear, if I hover, it gives me a wee bit of idea this person's not going to be around. If I'm going to allocate them against a task in that particular time span, things are going to go crazy with the task. It's going to become longer because they're not giving me the effort, so the task's not going to get done. And it just helps me be aware of it. I can build as many calendars inside projects. So I could go to the project menu again. I could go to change working time. There's the calendars I've already got available to me. You can see I've got different resources under here as well. But it would be these calendars up here I'd be looking at. The resources appear in there now, and they all have a calendar. So this allows me to go and change the working time for each resource from this screen. But we did it from the resources sheet, which is a better way of doing it because you're physically choosing the actual resource and you're changing it. But the calendars are all in here. The night shift, the 24 hours is standard, and the one I built. And I could create a new one again. And I could take a copy of any one, like if I want to take a copy of ITTP, and I can alter it slightly and then apply that to other resources. So you can have as many calendars as you want. Just make sure you know what they're for, who you would be allocating them against, and the resources calendar will always take precedence over the base calendar of the project. So for example, if my project had a task in it that was a Monday to Friday task, and let's say for the sake of simplicity, Monday to Friday was 8 hours per day, a 40-hour week, and I put a resource against it who worked a 34-hour week, then that 5-day tasks would be pushed into the next week because I wouldn't be getting 40 hours effort from them. Whereas if they actually worked 10 hours a day for 5 days of the week, and I put them against a 5-day task that was 40 hours, the task would be finished on a Thursday night if they were giving me 100% of their time, because 40 hours would be used up in 4 days. So it's a slightly complicated thing, calendars, but once you understand it and you can see how it's working, you do get your head around it and it does work. And this is how you would allocate calendars to resources up here. And if you needed to change an individual resource, you simply go into that resource, change working time, and go through the process of putting any exceptions in or changing their default working hours. I hope that's been helpful. That was step 3 in using calendars in Microsoft Project. Don't just jump straight into this. Follow step 1, follow step 2, follow step 3. It talks you through it in a logical fashion. Step 1 and step 2 are slightly longer videos because they just cover a lot more ground. This is a very quick one to show you resources. I hope again that's been helpful. Ian Thompson, IT Turning Point. I do carry out project training classes at a pace that suits you. A 1-day frantic, hectic class. A 2-day slower class that takes it very slowly and drums it in. Or I can do small workshops on resources or small workshops on tasks. Or I can come in and sit and do Microsoft Project Plan assistance with someone at their desk with an active project on a consultancy basis and see if we can nail down what's going wrong with the plan. Thanks very much. I hope that's helpful. Please get in touch and view my website at www.itturningpoint.com. You'll catch these videos there and you'll see the type of training and other aspects of IT that I cover. Thanks again. Take care. Ian Thompson. Bye-bye.